Hello friends, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about debugging because it's been a pain in the ass for me. Really, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to release my app, and you can see that the app is right here. I'm using Expo, and I know there's been a lot of bad rap about Expo and just using it for development and not for production or not using it at all. But I've been having some great experience with it actually. So I'm using it for both my development, my staging, and my production. And that's one of the benefits of Expo, in that you can have a development, production, and a staging environment. Normally, if you're developing in React Native, after some research I've done, specifically you can only do two environments, development and production, which if you take out staging, that's kind of risky to me, because staging is that test zone where you test your app before releasing it live. If you don't have that, you're gonna run into a lot of trouble with some really pissed off users if you just release it to production and test it there. So I have a staging environment with Expo. It makes it really nice to be able to test my app in a production-like environment before releasing it to production, and you can do that through release channels. But that's a topic for a different day. So the issue today is that I was actually running my app on iOS, and iOS was causing me a lot of trouble. The thing was that I was running my staging environment, running the app in staging, and it worked completely fine. That if I clicked save, there's supposed to be a dialog box that shows up. So in production, it did not show up at all. So I was clicking the button was firing, it was hitting the right function, but why wasn't it firing? Why wasn't I getting the data back that I wanted? Why wasn't it saving? And that was because in my Segas, which I ported it from my web app, because my web app I also did in React. So it felt natural to port the React app, and most of the components in my React app can be reused in React Native, which is awesome. But I also ported over my Sentry configuration and how I logged errors in Sentry. And you can see here in the code that I have in Bitbucket right now that I have this if environment app n equals production, then log the error, do this Sentry configure scope, which if I go all the way down here, this is where that file is. It configures the scope, gets the email, and tells me or logs to Sentry which user was having problem with what errors that they run into. So that did not work. That was specifically made for the web app, and it did not work at all in our mobile app. So I like saying so much, but I'm trying to make this video quick. I looked over to Sentry on Expo, and that's the link for it. So it is docs.expo.io, versions latest guides using Sentry. So follow this guide. It'll tell you how to set up Expo with or set up Sentry with Expo, so you get the error logging when you're in your production environment. So that's what I did. I followed the guide to the T, and it configured Expo to work with the Sentry. They were Sentry configuration for capturing errors on a web app, not on the mobile app. So that's the lesson that I learned today, that if you're using Expo and you're using Sentry for capturing your log errors, and you're fiddling around between environments, then don't do something like what I did in terms of like using the configurations for error capturing from your web app, but actually do go to Sentry Expo, do a npm save, npm install, save that module or that package, and then you have to use Sentry with the Expo that they gave you. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you've learned something, because this caused me a great big of a headache for like 8 hours, and it was only about 10 minutes ago that I actually figured out what the problem was.